Do you ever hear of St. No, not Ellen. St. Ilan, tucked high atop a cliff in the rugged hills of forgotten Wales. A monastery still stands, hidden from the world. You'll find peace here. You might find answers. You might find yourself. Time forgot to move forward here. Where the stone walls still whisper Latin prayers, and one flame has never gone out. A flame lit in the year 1325 by a monk named Ed. He tended it faithfully for 20 years until his dying breath, and so it continues to burn, untouched by wind or weather, a beacon in the mist. If you seek solace, if you've lost your way, if you're searching for the divine in the mundane, climb the weathered steps and push open the ancient door. Close your eyes. Breathe in and let it go slowly. Tonight, your dreams carry you to a place where time stands still, where ancient stone walls whisper forgotten prayers. And a single flame has burned for centuries. Let us step quietly into the cloister of St. Ilan. High, atop a mist-shrouded cliff, nestled in the northern reaches of forgotten Wales, lies a secret. The year is 1323, and a candle is being lit. For the very first time, it began not with celebration, but with sorrow. The monks of St. Ilan had buried half their brothers, victims of a pestilence that crept through the hills like a shadow with teeth. With grief-heavy hands, they lit a single candle in the chapel's heart, a vigil flame, meant to burn until their mourning passed. But the mourning never did, and neither did the flame. Brother Edric, the monastery's youngest scribe, was the first to notice. A week passed, then a month, then a season. They ran out of tallow, ran out of wick, but the flame kept burning. It did not flicker in drafts. It did not die in storms. It was as if it breathed. And when you stood near it, the air felt warm not with fire, but with memory. Generations passed. Monks grew old and were laid to rest beneath the chapel floor. Kings changed. Maps were redrawn, but the candle remained, lit alive. Visitors came, scholars, superstitious peasants, even a noblewoman, cloaked in mourning, who claimed the flame whispered her dead husband's name when no one else could hear it. But the monks never sought fame. They never called it a miracle. They only called it the keeper, and they guarded it. Brother Edric's journal survived. Now brittle and ink-faded, it remembers what we forget. And indeed, it seemed sometimes names would form in the wax as it melted. Sometimes, it flared when a lie was spoken. And sometimes, it dimmed, just before someone passed away. The abbey began to shift, not in stone or timber but in spirit. The monks no longer lit candles for daily prayers. Only one flame mattered. Visitors who entered the chapel said their dreams grew stranger after seeing it. Some heard lullabies from their childhood, others saw visions of lost loved ones, and a few wept without knowing why. But the candle itself remained still, warm, silent. In the year 1440, during the Wars of the Roses, a troop of soldiers stumbled upon the monastery. Their captain Yin, arrogant and hungry for glory, demanded shelter and declared the flame his spoil. But when he entered the chapel, sword drawn, something stopped him. He stood before the flame and fell to his knees. The soldiers said he cried like a boy, said he whispered his mother's name. He turned and left, never speaking of it again. The monks knew not to speak of it either. Only Brother Cadman, the cook, wrote in his own ledger, "It is not just light, it is truth, and truth is heavy." In the centuries that followed, the monastery crumbled. Storms tore away parts of the cloister. The outer gate collapsed in an earthquake. Ivy blanketed the bell tower, but the chapel stood, and in the very center on a blackened brass stand, carved with Lilla the candle, still burned. In 1666, during the Great Fire of London, a merchant's daughter fled the flames and wandered into the forest. She found herself near St. Ilan. By dawn, cold, starving, the monks took her in. When she was brought to the chapel, her hands trembled. She said nothing, but walked forward. She reached toward the flame and it flared blue, just for a moment. And then, she fainted. When she woke, she remembered her mother's voice, something she hadn't heard since infancy. The monks never asked what else she saw. In time, the monastery was no longer a place of vow. It became a shelter for the weary, a quiet sanctuary for the broken-hearted, the lost, and the curious. People came not in waves, but in ones. They left behind shoes, trinkets, handwritten notes, and the chapel whose offerings like whispers laid at the foot of fire. The modern world marched on, trains, telegraphs, satellites, but no wire or signal ever disturbed the candle. It was not recorded in history books. No photos of it exist, but it kept burning. Brother Willis, the last true monk of St. Ilan, passed away in 1938. He left behind no relatives, no estate, only one final note, pressed into the chapel wall behind the candle's altar. Do not try to understand it. Let it be your silence, your pause between breaths. Light, remembering itself. In the years that followed Brother Willis's passing, the abbey was nearly forgotten. Trees overtook the paths, moss swallowed stone, but the chapel never collapsed. Tourists didn't find it, GPS signals didn't ping it, and yet, the flame remained. A secret hidden not behind walls, but behind time. Then came Eleanor, a young woman from Norwich, grieving the loss of her sister. She wasn't seeking miracles, only quiet. She had heard of Saint Ilan from a letter tucked in a second-hand book. No address. Just one sentence. The candle waits in silence for those who remember how to listen. Eleanor arrived on the first day of spring. She expected ruins. What she found was a living breath of stillness. Birdsong echoed through cracked archways. Dust hung in beams of light, and in the chapel's heart, the candles still burned. The flame was no taller than a thumbprint. Soft, blue gold, flickering like memory. She sat before it for hours, saying nothing. She didn't need to. That night, Eleanor dreamt of her sister. Not the way she'd died, but the way she'd laughed. They sat by a lake they hadn't visited since childhood. Her sister hummed a lullaby. Eleanor woke with tear-stained cheeks and the scent of lavender in the air. She returned the next day, and the next. Each time, the candle welcomed her without changing, yet something within her did. Her grief softened. She began leaving things. A ribbon, a page from her journal, dried herbs from her garden, and the flame never dimmed. Soon, others found their way to the candle, not through signs or maps, but through whispers. A Treavola from Belgium who lost his voice to illness, but regained his dreams in the chapel. A boy from Ireland who stopped speaking after his mother's passing, until he sat by the flame and softly sang. A woman who hadn't seen color since her husband died, and swore she saw the candle as crimson as a poppy. No one claimed the candle, no one tried to own it. It was felt, not captured, and it gave nothing yet changed everything. People began calling it by a new name. The listener. Because the candle, they said, didn't ask, it simply heard. Word of the candle never reached the world stage. It didn't go viral. It didn't become a pilgrimage site. And yet, every year, a few new visitors still arrived. None knew how they found it. Some heard of it from a stranger on a train. Others found cryptic directions scribbled on a napkin or tucked inside a forgotten drawer. No one advertised it, but it was always known by those who needed it most. One man, a former historian, arrived during a snowstorm. He'd lost his memory to a rare illness. He couldn't recall his family, his name, his life's work. But when he sat before the flame, something stirred. Not facts, not dates, but feelings, he whispered. I don't remember what I've lost, but I remember that I loved, and for the first time in years, he smiled. Another visitor, a little girl with night terrors, came with her father. She was afraid of darkness, but the candle didn't scare her. She sat on the cold chapel floor for nearly an hour, staring at the flame as if it were a friend. That night, she slept soundly. The first time in months. Sometimes, the candle would flare slightly when someone told the truth. Other times, it would dim when someone tried to lie. There was no pattern, no logic, only presence. A stillness so old, it made your heartbeat feel like an echo. Local villagers stopped wondering long ago. To them, the candle was just there. They left it be. They spoke of it in quiet tones, if at all. And if asked for directions, they'd simply say, you'll find it, if you're meant to. One night, a woman named Lyra arrived with a child on her back. The boy was silent, pale, sick beyond healing. She didn't beg for miracles. She only sat beside the flame, rocking, gently, humming a lullaby, older than language. But the flame did not flicker. It simply held space. And Lyra whispered, you carried him gently, Thank you. She left a feather beside the brass candle holder, and for years afterward, no dust ever settled on it. There were rumors always whispered, never written. Some claimed the candle marked a place where time bent. Others believed it was an eternal vigil, lit for a forgotten soul, still waiting to be named. But the monks had never written its origin. Even the earliest records were vague. Only this, carved faintly into the chapel stone behind the altar. Where the world is quiet, the flame remains. One autumn morning, a group of hikers stumbled upon the ruins. They weren't seeking solace, only a shortcut to the valley. At first, they joked about ghosts and medieval curses, but once inside the chapel, they grew quiet. The laughter fell away like leaves in wind. One by one, they sat before the flame, and when they left an hour later, they didn't speak for miles. Not out of fear, but reverence, as though they'd been somewhere sacred, and knew better than to break its spell. By the 21st century, very few knew of Saint Ilan. The forest roads no longer led there, maps omitted it, and satellites failed to lock coordinates. But now and then, someone still arrived. A painter who lost faith in beauty, a monk who questioned his vow, a girl who couldn't speak but drew pictures of light for days afterward. Some left stones, others, songs. A few left names written on leaves, folded into shapes only the wind could read. But none tried to take the flame. None dared. It wasn't protected by locks or alarms, but by wonder. And wonder, true wonder, is a gate few know how to pass through. And so it was that 7 centuries passed, through war and plague, through kings and revolutions, through silence and song. The candle remained. Not because of magic, though some believed it, not because of machinery, though many searched for it, but because perhaps some things endure simply because they're meant to. If you ever find it by accident or by fate, sit down. Don't rush. Don't ask questions. Just be. Let the quiet fill you. Let the warmth reach the cold places. Let the stillness open the locked doors inside. And when you leave, leave something behind. A whisper, a secret, a name. You are real. And long after you are gone, when the world has changed its shape again, someone else will sit where you once did and feel you there, in the light. Just like you, dear listener, as your breath slows and your eyelids fall. Know this, the candle is still burning, and it will wait for you, always. Please do subscribe and comment for more videos. Thank you.